As the plane soared into the sky, a voice crackled over the intercom, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a situation." The cabin fell silent, hearts racing, as a flight attendant's furious shout echoed through the aisles, targeting a young black girl. In that moment, the girl's life would change forever, and with a single phone call, she would bring an entire airline to its knees. The airport was a cacophony of sounds, rolling suitcases, the distant roar of jet engines, and the chatter of travelers rushing to their gates. Among the throngs of people was 16-year-old Aisha, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Today was the day she would board Flight 237, bound for a summer journalism program that could change her life. She had spent countless hours dreaming of becoming a journalist, inspired by the stories of resilience and courage she had read about in books. As she approached the gate, Aisha felt a surge of hope. This was her chance to learn from industry professionals, to hone her skills, and to meet like-minded peers. But as she stepped into the boarding area, her excitement was quickly overshadowed by a sense of unease. The flight attendant, a woman with sharp features and a no-nonsense attitude, was barking orders at passengers. "Hurry up. We don't have all day." Her voice cut through the air like a knife, and Aisha felt a knot form in her stomach. The attendant's demeanor was harsh, and it was clear she thrived on the chaos of the airport. When it was Aisha's turn to board, the attendant's gaze fell on her. "You. What are you doing? Get in line like everyone else." The words were sharp, and Aisha felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. She had been in line, but the attendant's tone made her feel small and insignificant. "I'm sorry, Aisha began, but the attendant cut her off. "Just get on the plane," she snapped, her voice dripping with disdain. Aisha's heart sank. She had always been taught to stand up for herself, but in that moment, she felt paralyzed by the attendant's aggression. As she walked down the jet bridge, Aisha's mind raced. Why had the attendant singled her out? Was it because of her skin color? She shook her head, trying to dismiss the thought. It was just a bad day for the attendant, she reasoned. But deep down, the feeling of being targeted lingered. Once on the plane, Aisha found her seat by the window and took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. She pulled out her notebook, hoping to distract herself by jotting down her thoughts. But the incident with the flight attendant weighed heavily on her mind. As the plane filled with passengers, Aisha noticed the attendant moving through the aisles, her demeanor still harsh. She barked at passengers to sit down and fasten their seatbelts, her voice echoing through the cabin. Aisha couldn't shake the feeling that the woman was on a power trip, and it made her uneasy. Just as the plane was about to push back from the gate, Aisha's phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from her best friend, "Mia, are you on the plane yet? Can't wait to hear about your trip." Aisha smiled at the message, but before she could respond, the flight attendant appeared beside her. "Put that away. No phones until we're in the air," she snapped, her eyes narrowing. Aisha's heart raced again. "Do you want to get kicked off this flight?" the attendant interrupted, her voice low and threatening. Aisha felt a wave of humiliation wash over her. She quickly tucked her phone away, feeling the eyes of the other passengers on her. As the plane taxied down the runway, Aisha tried to focus on the view outside the window. The cityscape blurred into a patchwork of colors as they took off, but her mind was still reeling from the encounter. She couldn't shake the feeling that the flight attendant's behavior was more than just a bad day. It felt personal. Once the plane reached cruising altitude, the seatbelt sign was turned off, and the flight attendants began their service. Aisha watched as the same attendant who had shouted at her moved through the aisles, serving drinks and snacks. She felt a mix of anger and frustration bubbling inside her. After a few minutes, Aisha decided she needed to talk to someone about what had happened. She pulled out her phone, but before she could unlock it, the attendant appeared. The flight attendant loomed over Aisha, her expression a mix of irritation and authority. "I told you to put that away," she hissed, her voice low but laced with venom. Aisha felt her heart race, a mix of fear and indignation flooding her system. She had never been one to back down, but the attendant's aggressive demeanor made her hesitate. "I just wanted to check in with my friend," Aisha replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm sorry if Enough," the attendant snapped, cutting her off. You think you can just do whatever you want? This is a plane, not your living room. Aisha's cheeks burned with humiliation. She glanced around, noticing the other passengers watching the exchange with a mix of curiosity and discomfort. Some looked away, while others seemed to lean in, eager to witness the drama unfold. Aisha felt trapped, her mind racing as she tried to process the situation. As the attendant moved on, Aisha took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. She pulled out her notebook again, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she felt a surge of anger bubbling inside her. Why was she being treated this way? Was it because she was a black girl? The thought gnawed at her, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the attendant's behavior was rooted in something deeper. Determined not to let the incident ruin her trip, Aisha decided to take action. She pulled out her phone again, her fingers trembling as she typed a message to Mia. You won't believe what just happened. The flight attendant is being really rude to me. I feel like I'm being targeted. Before she could hit send, the attendant reappeared, her eyes narrowing as she spotted Aisha with her phone. I told you to put that away, she barked, her voice rising. If you don't follow the rules, I'll have to report you. Aisha's heart sank. I'm just trying to communicate with my friend, she said, her voice shaking. I'm not doing anything wrong. The attendant leaned in closer, her face inches from Aisha's. You think you can just break the rules because you're a kid? You need to learn some respect. In that moment, Aisha felt a fire ignite within her. She was tired of being treated like she didn't matter, tired of being silenced. I deserve to be treated with respect too, she shot back, her voice rising in defiance. The cabin fell silent, and Aisha could feel the weight of the passengers' gazes on her. The attendant's eyes widened in surprise, and for a brief moment, Aisha saw a flicker of uncertainty cross her face. But it was quickly replaced by anger. Get ready for a bumpy ride, kid, the attendant sneered before walking away, leaving Aisha shaken but resolute. She knew she had to do something, and she had to do it fast. As the plane cruised at 30,000 feet, Aisha's mind raced. She couldn't let this go unchallenged. She pulled out her phone again, her fingers flying over the screen as she typed a message to her mom. Mom, the flight attendant is being really rude to me. I feel like I'm being targeted. I need help. She hit send and took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. But as she looked around the cabin, she noticed that the atmosphere had shifted. Passengers were whispering to each other, their expressions a mix of concern and disbelief. Aisha felt a sense of solidarity building among them, and it gave her the courage she needed. Suddenly, the plane hit turbulence, jolting everyone in their seats. The overhead compartments rattled, and Aisha's heart raced as she gripped the armrests. The flight attendants rushed to secure the cabin, and Aisha's eyes darted to the front of the plane, where the cockpit door was closed tight. In the midst of the chaos, Aisha's phone buzzed again. It was a message from her mom. I'm calling the airline. Stay strong, Aisha. You're not alone. Aisha felt a surge of hope. Her mom was taking action, and she knew she had to do the same. She stood up, her heart pounding as she looked around the cabin. Excuse me, everyone, she called out, her voice steady despite the turbulence. I need your help. The passengers turned to her, their expressions shifting from surprise to curiosity. This flight attendant is treating me unfairly, and I think we need to stand together. If anyone else has experienced something similar, please speak up. A murmur of agreement rippled through the cabin. A few passengers nodded, and one man raised his hand. The man who raised his hand was in his late 30s, with a kind face and a look of determination in his eyes. I've seen how she's been treating you, he said, his voice steady. It's not right. We should all be treated with respect, regardless of our age or background. Aisha felt a wave of relief wash over her. She wasn't alone. Thank you, she said, her voice gaining strength. If we all speak up, maybe we can make a difference. The cabin buzzed with murmurs of agreement. A few more passengers chimed in, sharing their own experiences of feeling dismissed or disrespected by the flight attendants. Aisha's heart raced as she realized that this was more than just her fight, it was a collective stand against unfair treatment. The flight attendant, who had been serving drinks at the front of the cabin, turned to see the commotion. Her eyes narrowed as she approached Aisha, her expression a mix of anger and disbelief. "What do you think you're doing?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "I'm standing up for myself and for everyone else who feels disrespected," Aisha replied, her voice unwavering. "We deserve to be treated with dignity." The attendant scoffed, crossing her arms. "You think you can just rally everyone against me? You're just a kid." Aisha felt a surge of defiance. "And you're just a flight attendant. But that doesn't give you the right to bully people. We're all passengers here, and we deserve to be treated equally." The tension in the cabin was palpable. Aisha could feel the eyes of the other passengers on her, their support giving her strength. The flight attendant's face flushed with anger, but Aisha stood her ground, refusing to back down. "Enough of this," the attendant shouted, her voice echoing through the cabin. "If you don't sit down and be quiet, I'll have to report you to the captain." Aisha's heart raced, but she knew she couldn't let fear control her. "Go ahead. Report me. But know that I'm not the only one who feels this way. We're all tired of being treated like we don't matter." The cabin erupted in murmurs of agreement, and Aisha felt a surge of adrenaline. She had ignited something within the passengers, a sense of unity and purpose. The flight attendant's face twisted in frustration as she realized she was losing control of the situation. Just then, Aisha's phone buzzed again. It was a message from her mom. "I just spoke to the airline. They're aware of the situation and are monitoring the flight. Stay strong, Aisha." Aisha's heart swelled with gratitude. She turned to the passengers around her. "My mom just contacted the airline. They're aware of what's happening, and they're ready to take action. We need to keep standing together." The atmosphere in the cabin shifted. Passengers began to speak up, sharing their own stories of feeling marginalized or dismissed. Aisha felt a sense of empowerment wash over her as she listened to their voices rise in solidarity. The flight attendant, realizing she was losing control, stormed to the front of the cabin and spoke to the other flight attendants in hushed tones. Aisha could see the tension in her posture, the way her hands clenched into fists. It was clear that she was rattled. As the plane continued its journey, Aisha felt a sense of purpose. She was no longer just a scared teenager, she was a voice for change. The passengers around her were rallying, and she could feel the energy building. Suddenly, the captain's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been informed of a situation on board. We ask that everyone remain calm and seated. We will address this matter shortly." Aisha's heart raced. This was it. The airline was taking the situation seriously. She exchanged glances with the passengers around her, and they all nodded in silent agreement. They were in this together. The captain's expression softened as he listened. "I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. We take these matters very seriously. I want to ensure that everyone on this flight feels safe and respected." Aisha felt a wave of relief wash over her. The captain was listening, and he seemed genuinely concerned. "Thank you, sir. It's not just me, there are other passengers who have felt disrespected as well. We just want to be treated fairly." The head flight attendant, who had been standing silently beside the captain, shifted uncomfortably. "I assure you, we strive to maintain a professional environment," she said, her voice defensive. "But we also have rules that need to be followed." Aisha felt a surge of frustration. "I understand that, but rules shouldn't come at the expense of respect. We're all human beings here, and we deserve to be treated as such." The captain nodded, acknowledging Aisha's point. "I understand. I will speak with the flight attendants and ensure that this situation is addressed appropriately. In the meantime, I encourage everyone to remain calm and enjoy the rest of the flight." As the captain turned to leave, Aisha felt a sense of empowerment. She had spoken up, and her voice had been heard. The passengers around her began to murmur in agreement, their solidarity palpable. The captain paused before exiting the cabin. "And Aisha," he said, looking directly at her, "thank you for your courage. It takes a lot to stand up for what's right." Aisha's heart swelled with pride. "Thank you, sir," she replied, feeling a sense of validation. The captain nodded and exited the cabin, leaving the head flight attendant standing there, visibly shaken. The tension in the cabin began to dissipate as passengers resumed their conversations, but Aisha could see the flight attendant's frustration boiling beneath the surface. She moved to the front of the cabin, her demeanor still tense. Aisha leaned over to the man who had supported her earlier. "Do you think they'll really do something about it?" she asked, her voice low. "I hope so," he replied, his expression thoughtful. "But it's up to us to keep the pressure on. We can't let them sweep this under the rug." Aisha nodded, feeling a renewed sense of determination. She glanced around the cabin, noticing that many passengers were still watching the flight attendant closely. It was clear that they were all invested in the outcome of this situation. As the flight continued, Aisha felt a mix of anxiety and hope. The flight attendants resumed their service, but the atmosphere had shifted. Passengers were more vocal, and Aisha could hear snippets of conversations about the incident. It was clear that the flight attendant's authority had been challenged, and she was no longer the only one in control. Aisha's phone buzzed again, and she quickly checked it. It was a message from her mom. "I just spoke to the airline's customer service. They're aware of the situation and are prepared to take action when you land. Stay strong." Aisha felt a surge of gratitude. Her mom's support meant everything to her. She looked around the cabin, noticing that many passengers were now engaged in conversations about the importance of respect and equality. It was as if the incident had sparked a movement, and Aisha was at the center of it. As the flight attendants continued their service, Aisha noticed that the head flight attendant was now more subdued. She moved through the aisles with a forced smile, but the tension in her posture was evident. Aisha couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. The power dynamics had shifted, and the passengers were no longer afraid to speak up. When the plane finally began its descent, Aisha felt a mix of relief and anticipation. She knew that once they landed, the airline would have to address the situation. As the wheels touched down, the cabin erupted in applause, a collective release of tension and frustration. The plane came to a stop at the gate, and the captain's voice came over the intercom once more. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for flying with us today. We appreciate your patience and understanding during the flight. Please remain seated until the seatbelt sign is turned off." Aisha's heart raced as she gathered her belongings, ready to face whatever came next. As the passengers began to disembark, she felt a sense of camaraderie with those around her. They had stood together, and now they were all united in their desire for change. As Aisha stepped off the plane, she spotted her mom waiting for her at the gate, a look of concern etched on her face. "Aisha. Are you okay?" her mom asked, pulling her into a tight embrace. "I'm fine, Mom. It was intense, but I stood up for myself," Aisha replied, her voice filled with a mix of relief and pride. She could feel the weight of the experience settling in, but she was grateful for the support of her mom and the other passengers. As they walked through the terminal, Aisha noticed a group of airline representatives waiting near the gate. The head flight attendant stood among them, her expression tense. Aisha's heart raced as she realized that this was the moment of truth. The airline was about to address the situation, and she was determined to be part of it. "Mom, I need to talk to them," Aisha said, her voice firm. "I want to make sure they understand what happened." Her mom nodded, a look of pride in her eyes. "I'm right behind you." Aisha approached the group of representatives, her heart pounding. "Excuse me," she said, her voice steady. "I'm Aisha, and I was on flight 237. I need to tell you what happened." The representatives turned to her, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. The head flight attendant stepped forward, her demeanor still defensive. "We're aware of the situation, and we're here to address it," she said, her voice clipped. Aisha took a deep breath, feeling the support of her mom behind her. I just want to make sure that you understand how your flight attendant treated me and the other passengers. It was unacceptable. We deserve to be treated with respect, no matter our age or background. The airline representatives exchanged glances, and one of them, a woman in a crisp suit, stepped forward. Thank you for bringing this to our attention, Aisha. We take these matters very seriously, and we want to ensure that all our passengers feel safe and respected. We will be conducting a thorough investigation into this incident. Aisha felt a surge of hope. I appreciate that. It's important for everyone to know that we won't tolerate disrespect. We need to stand up for each other. The representative nodded, her expression sincere. Absolutely. We will also be reaching out to the passengers on that flight to gather more information. Your voice matters, and we want to ensure that this doesn't happen again. As Aisha spoke, she noticed the head flight attendant's expression shift. For the first time, she looked vulnerable, her bravado fading. Aisha felt a mix of empathy and resolve. I hope you understand that your actions have consequences, Aisha said, her voice steady. We're all human, and we need to treat each other with kindness. The head flight attendant opened her mouth to respond, but Aisha turned away, feeling a sense of closure. She had said what needed to be said, and now it was up to the airline to take action. As Aisha and her mom walked away from the group, her mom squeezed her hand. I'm so proud of you, Aisha. You stood up for yourself and for others. That takes a lot of courage. Aisha smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. Thanks, Mom. I just hope they really do something about it. In the days that followed, Aisha received messages from her mom, friends, and even some of the passengers from the flight. They expressed their support and shared their own experiences of feeling marginalized or disrespected. Aisha felt a sense of community forming around her, and it fueled her passion for journalism even more. Then, one afternoon, Aisha received a call from the airline. It was the representative she had spoken to at the airport. Hello, Aisha. I wanted to follow up with you regarding the incident on Flight 237. We've completed our investigation, and I wanted to share the outcome with you. Aisha's heart raced. Okay, what happened? We've taken your concerns very seriously. The flight attendant in question has been placed on leave while we conduct further training for our staff on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want to ensure that all our employees understand the importance of treating every passenger with respect. Aisha felt a wave of relief wash over her. Thank you for taking this seriously. It's important for everyone to feel safe and respected when they travel. Absolutely, the representative replied. We also want to offer you a complimentary ticket for a future flight as a gesture of goodwill. We appreciate your courage in speaking up. Aisha couldn't believe it. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. As she hung up the phone, Aisha felt a sense of empowerment. She had turned a negative experience into a catalyst for change, not just for herself but for others as well. She knew that her voice mattered, and she was determined to continue using it. In the days that followed, Aisha received messages from her mom, friends, and even some of the passengers from the flight. They expressed their support and shared their own experiences of feeling marginalized or disrespected. Aisha felt a sense of community forming around her, and it fueled her passion for journalism even more. Then, one afternoon, Aisha received a call from the airline. It was the representative she had spoken to at the airport. Hello, Aisha. I wanted to follow up with you regarding the incident on Flight 237. We've completed our investigation, and I wanted to share the outcome with you. Aisha's heart raced. Okay, what happened? We've taken your concerns very seriously. The flight attendant in question has been placed on leave while we conduct further training for our staff on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want to ensure that all our employees understand the importance of treating every passenger with respect. Aisha felt a wave of relief wash over her. Thank you for taking this seriously. It's important for everyone to feel safe and respected when they travel. Absolutely, the representative replied. We also want to offer you a complimentary ticket for a future flight as a gesture of goodwill. We appreciate your courage in speaking up. Aisha couldn't believe it. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. As she hung up the phone, Aisha felt a sense of empowerment. She had turned a negative experience into a catalyst for change, not just for herself but for others as well. She knew that her voice mattered, and she was determined to continue using it. With her complimentary ticket in hand, Aisha decided to use it for a trip back to the summer journalism program she had originally intended to attend. She wanted to share her experience with her peers and encourage them to stand up for what was right. She knew that her story could resonate with others who had faced similar challenges. When she arrived at the program, Aisha was greeted by her fellow students and instructors. They were eager to hear about her journey and the incident on the flight. Aisha stood in front of the group, her heart racing as she prepared to share her story. Thank you all for being here, she began, her voice steady. I want to talk about something that happened to me recently on a flight. It was a difficult experience, but it taught me the importance of standing up for myself and for others. As she recounted the events of the flight, the room fell silent. Her peers listened intently, their expressions a mix of shock and empathy. Aisha spoke about the flight attendant's harsh treatment, the support she received from other passengers, and the outcome of her efforts to address the situation with the airline. I realized that it's not just about one person's experience, Aisha continued. It's about all of us coming together to demand respect and equality. We have the power to make a difference, and we should never be afraid to speak up. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Aisha felt a rush of gratitude and pride. She had turned her painful experience into a powerful lesson, and it resonated with her peers. They began to share their own stories of feeling marginalized or disrespected, and the conversation flowed freely. One of her classmates, a young man named Jamal, spoke up. I've had similar experiences, and it's so important that we support each other. We need to create a culture where everyone feels safe and valued. Aisha nodded, feeling a sense of camaraderie with her classmates. Exactly. We can use our voices to advocate for change, whether it's in our schools, communities, or even on flights. We have to hold each other accountable. As the program continued, Aisha found herself more engaged than ever. She participated in workshops, wrote articles, and collaborated with her peers on projects that focused on social justice and advocacy. The experience was transformative, and she felt empowered to pursue her dreams of becoming a journalist. Months passed, and Aisha's experience on the flight became a defining moment in her life. She continued to write about issues of equity and justice, using her platform to amplify the voices of those who felt unheard. Her articles gained traction, and she began to build a following on social media. One day, she received a message from a local news station. They had heard about her story and wanted to feature her in a segment about young activists making a difference. Aisha was both excited and nervous. This was her chance to share her message with a wider audience. When the day of the interview arrived, Aisha stood in front of the camera, her heart racing. The host greeted her warmly and asked her to share her story. Aisha spoke passionately about her experience on the flight, the importance of standing up for oneself, and the need for systemic change in the airline industry and beyond. As she spoke, she could see the impact her words were having. The host nodded along, and the audience was visibly moved. Aisha felt a sense of purpose wash over her. This was what she had always wanted, to use her voice to inspire change. After the interview aired, Aisha received an outpouring of support. People reached out to her, sharing their own stories and expressing gratitude for her courage. Aisha felt a sense of responsibility to continue advocating for those who felt marginalized. As the months turned into years, Aisha's journey as a young journalist continued to evolve. She graduated from high school with honors and received a scholarship to a prestigious university, where she pursued a degree in journalism and social justice. Her experiences on the flight had ignited a passion for advocacy, and she became involved in various organizations focused on equity and inclusion. Aisha organized workshops, spoke at conferences, and mentored younger students who wanted to make a difference. One day, while attending a conference on media and social justice, Aisha was approached by a well-known journalist. "I've been following your work, and I'm impressed by your dedication to advocacy," he said. "I'd love to collaborate with you on a project that highlights young voices in journalism." Aisha's heart raced with excitement. "I would love that. I believe it's important to uplift the stories of young people who are making a difference." As they discussed potential projects, Aisha felt a sense of fulfillment. She had come a long way from that fateful flight, and her journey was just beginning. She was determined to continue using her voice to advocate for change, to inspire others, and to create a world where everyone felt valued and respected. With each article she wrote, each speech she delivered, and each person she inspired, Aisha knew she was making a difference. She had turned her painful experience into a powerful force for good, and she was ready to take on the world. As Aisha continued her studies, she began to see the ripple effect of her advocacy work. Her articles were published in local newspapers and online platforms, and she was invited to speak at schools and community events. Each time she shared her story, she inspired others to find their voices and stand up for what they believed in. One afternoon, Aisha received an email from a high school student named Maya. "Dear Aisha, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your story. I had a similar experience on a school trip, and I felt so alone. Your courage inspired me to speak up, and I talked to my teachers about it. They are now working on creating a more inclusive environment for all students." Aisha felt a surge of pride as she read Maya's message. It was moments like these that reminded her why she had started this journey in the first place. She replied to Maya, encouraging her to keep advocating for change and to never underestimate the power of her voice. As the school year progressed, Aisha organized a panel discussion at her university, inviting fellow students to share their experiences with discrimination and inequality. The event was a huge success, drawing a diverse audience and sparking meaningful conversations about how to create a more inclusive community. Aisha realized that her journey was not just about her own experiences, it was about creating a platform for others to share their stories and advocate for change. She felt a deep sense of responsibility to continue this work, knowing that every voice mattered. As graduation approached, Aisha reflected on how far she had come. She had transformed her painful experience into a powerful movement for change, and she was excited about the future. She had received job offers from several media outlets, all eager to have her voice and perspective on their teams. One evening, as she sat in her dorm room, Aisha received a call from a major news network. They wanted to offer her a position as a junior reporter, focusing on social justice issues. Aisha's heart raced with excitement. This was the opportunity she had dreamed of. "Thank you so much. I would love to accept the position," she replied, her voice filled with enthusiasm. As she hung up the phone, Aisha felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. She had turned her challenges into triumphs, and she was ready to take on the world as a journalist and advocate. With her passion for storytelling and her commitment to justice, Aisha knew she could make a difference, one story at a time. As Aisha stepped into her new role as a junior reporter at the news network, she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. This was the culmination of her hard work and dedication, and she was determined to make the most of it. Her first assignment was to cover a local community event focused on promoting diversity and inclusion, a topic she was passionate about. On the day of the event, Aisha arrived early to set up her equipment and familiarize herself with the venue. The atmosphere was vibrant, filled with people from various backgrounds coming together to celebrate their differences. Aisha felt a sense of belonging as she mingled with attendees, listening to their stories and experiences. As she conducted interviews, Aisha was struck by the power of personal narratives. Each person she spoke to had faced their own challenges, yet they were all united in their desire for a more inclusive community. Aisha knew that these stories needed to be told, and she was honored to be the one to share them. Later that evening, as she prepared to write her article, Aisha reflected on how far she had come since that fateful flight. She had transformed her pain into purpose, and now she was using her voice to uplift others. It was a powerful reminder of the impact one person could have. As Aisha settled into her role, she faced challenges that tested her resolve. The newsroom was fast-paced and competitive, and she quickly learned that not every story would be easy to tell. There were moments when she felt overwhelmed, especially when covering sensitive topics that required a delicate approach. One day, Aisha was assigned to cover a protest advocating for police reform. The event was charged with emotion, and she knew it was crucial to capture the voices of those affected by systemic injustice. As she navigated the crowd, she felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. During the protest, Aisha encountered a young woman named Sarah, who was passionately speaking about her experiences with police discrimination. Aisha approached her for an interview, and as they spoke, she could see the pain and frustration in Sarah's eyes. Aisha listened intently, knowing that this story could resonate with many. After the interview, Aisha felt a sense of urgency to get the story right. She spent hours crafting her article, ensuring that Sarah's voice was heard and that the complexities of the issue were addressed. When the piece was published, it garnered significant attention, sparking conversations across social media and within the community. Aisha's article on the protest became a turning point in her career. It not only highlighted the need for police reform but also showcased the power of grassroots activism. Aisha received messages from readers who were inspired to take action in their own communities, and she felt a renewed sense of purpose. As she continued to report on social justice issues, Aisha became known for her empathetic approach and commitment to amplifying marginalized voices. She was invited to speak at various events, sharing her journey and encouraging others to use their platforms for advocacy. One evening, while attending a panel discussion on media representation, Aisha was approached by a seasoned journalist. "Your work is making a difference, Aisha," he said. "Keep pushing for the stories that matter. The world needs more voices like yours." Aisha felt a surge of gratitude. She had come a long way from that flight, and she was determined to continue her mission of advocating for change. With each story she wrote, she was not only informing the public but also inspiring others to join the fight for justice. As Aisha looked ahead, she knew that her journey was far from over. She had dreams of writing a book about her experiences and the importance of advocacy in journalism. She wanted to create a resource for young journalists, encouraging them to embrace their voices and tell the stories that needed to be heard. With her newfound confidence and determination, Aisha began outlining her book, drawing from her own experiences and the stories of those she had encountered along the way. She envisioned a collection of narratives that would inspire others to stand up for what they believed in and to recognize the power of their voices. As she continued to navigate the challenges of her career, Aisha remained committed to her mission. She knew that the road ahead would not always be easy, but she was ready to face whatever came her way. With each article, each interview, and each story shared, Aisha was making a difference, one voice at a time. As Aisha settled into her role at the news network, she quickly learned that journalism was not just about reporting facts, it was about telling stories that could change lives. Each day brought new challenges, but it also offered opportunities to make a difference. Aisha was determined to use her platform to advocate for those who felt unheard, and she approached each assignment with passion and purpose. One morning, Aisha received an email from her editor about an upcoming series on mental health awareness. The series aimed to shed light on the stigma surrounding mental health issues, particularly in marginalized communities. Aisha felt a personal connection to the topic. She had seen friends and family struggle with mental health challenges, often feeling isolated and misunderstood. "Hey, Aisha," her editor said during their morning meeting. "We want you to lead this series. We're looking for personal stories that highlight the impact of mental health on individuals and families. It's a sensitive topic, and we need someone who can approach it with empathy." Aisha nodded, feeling the weight of the responsibility. "I'd love to take this on. I think it's crucial to share these stories and help break the stigma." As she began her research, Aisha reached out to local mental health organizations and support groups. She wanted to connect with individuals who were willing to share their experiences, knowing that their stories could resonate with many. Aisha was determined to create a narrative that was not only informative but also compassionate. Over the next few weeks, Aisha conducted interviews with a diverse group of individuals. She spoke with a young man named Malik, who had struggled with anxiety and depression after losing a family member. He shared how he felt isolated and ashamed, believing that he had to face his struggles alone. Aisha listened intently, her heart aching for him as he recounted his journey toward healing. I felt like I was drowning, Malik said, his voice trembling. I didn't want to burden anyone with my problems. But once I started talking about it, I realized I wasn't alone. There are so many people who feel the same way. Aisha nodded, understanding the importance of his words. Your story is powerful, Malik. It's important for others to hear that they're not alone in their struggles. Next, Aisha met with a mother named Rosa, who had been advocating for mental health resources in her community after her daughter was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Rosa spoke passionately about the lack of support and understanding for families dealing with mental health issues. It's a battle every day, Rosa said, tears in her eyes. I want my daughter to feel supported and loved, but it's hard when people don't understand what she's going through. We need more resources and education in our communities. Aisha felt a deep sense of empathy for Rosa and her daughter. Thank you for sharing your story, Rosa. It's crucial that we bring attention to these issues and advocate for change. As Aisha continued her interviews, she began to see a common thread among the stories. Many individuals expressed feelings of isolation, shame, and a desire for understanding. Aisha realized that the stigma surrounding mental health was not just a personal struggle, it was a societal issue that needed to be addressed. With each interview, Aisha crafted her articles with care, weaving together the narratives of those she had spoken to. She wanted to ensure that their voices were heard and that their stories would resonate with readers. Aisha also included expert insights from mental health professionals, providing context and resources for those who might be struggling. When the series was published, it received an overwhelming response. Readers reached out to Aisha, sharing their own experiences and expressing gratitude for the stories that had been told. Many felt inspired to seek help or to start conversations about mental health within their own families and communities. One evening, Aisha received a heartfelt message from a reader named Jenna. Dear Aisha, I just wanted to thank you for your article on mental health. I've been struggling for years, and your words made me feel seen. I finally reached out for help, and it's the best decision I've ever made. Thank you for giving me hope. Aisha felt a rush of emotion as she read Jenna's message. This was why she had chosen journalism, to make a difference, to give a voice to those who felt unheard, and to inspire change. She knew that her work was far from over, and she was determined to continue advocating for mental health awareness. As Aisha's reputation as a compassionate journalist grew, she was invited to speak at various events and panels focused on mental health advocacy. She found herself in front of audiences, sharing her journey and the stories of those she had encountered. Each time she spoke, she felt a sense of purpose and fulfillment. One particularly impactful event was a mental health awareness conference held at her university. Aisha was one of the keynote speakers, and she prepared diligently, wanting to convey the importance of breaking the stigma surrounding mental health. As she stood on stage, looking out at the audience, she felt a mix of excitement and nerves. Thank you all for being here today, Aisha began, her voice steady. I want to talk about something that affects so many of us but is often left in the shadows: mental health. It's a topic that deserves our attention, our compassion, and our understanding. As she shared her own experiences and the stories of those she had interviewed, Aisha could see the audience's engagement. She spoke about Malik's struggle with anxiety, Rosa's fight for her daughter, and the countless others who had bravely shared their stories. Aisha emphasized the importance of community support and the need for open conversations about mental health. Every story matters, she said passionately. When we share our experiences, we create a space for others to feel safe in sharing theirs. We can break the stigma together. After her speech, Aisha was approached by several attendees who expressed their gratitude for her words. One young woman, tears in her eyes, said, "I've been struggling with my mental health for years, and I've never felt comfortable talking about it. Your story inspired me to reach out for help. Thank you for being brave." Aisha felt a deep sense of connection with the young woman. You're not alone. It takes courage to seek help, and I'm proud of you for taking that step. As the conference continued, Aisha participated in panel discussions and workshops, engaging with mental health professionals and advocates. She learned about new initiatives aimed at improving mental health resources in schools and communities, and she felt inspired to continue her advocacy work. With her newfound confidence and the positive feedback from her speaking engagements, Aisha decided to expand her advocacy efforts. She envisioned creating a platform dedicated to mental health awareness, where individuals could share their stories, access resources, and find support. Aisha began brainstorming ideas for a website and social media campaign. She wanted to create a safe space for people to connect, share their experiences, and find hope. She reached out to mental health professionals and fellow advocates, seeking their input and collaboration. Let's create a community where people can feel seen and heard, Aisha proposed during a meeting with her peers. We can provide resources, share stories, and promote events that focus on mental health awareness. Her peers were enthusiastic about the idea, and together they began to develop the platform. They worked tirelessly to design the website, curate content, and create social media accounts. Aisha felt a sense of excitement as the project began to take shape. As the launch date approached, Aisha reflected on how far she had come. From that fateful flight to becoming a journalist and advocate, she had transformed her pain into purpose. She was determined to make a lasting impact on the lives of others. On the day of the launch, Aisha felt a mix of nerves and excitement. She gathered with her team to unveil the website and promote it on social media. As they hit the "Publish" button, Aisha's heart raced. This was the beginning of something meaningful. The response to the launch was overwhelming. Within hours, the website received hundreds of visits, and people began sharing their stories in the comments section. Aisha felt a rush of emotion as she read the heartfelt messages from individuals who had found solace in the platform. "Thank you for creating this space," one user wrote. "I've struggled with depression for years, and it's comforting to know I'm not alone." Another message read, "I never thought I could share my story, but this platform has given me the courage to speak up. Thank you for your work." Aisha and her team worked diligently to respond to comments and engage with their growing community. They organized virtual events, including webinars and support groups, where individuals could connect and share their experiences in a safe environment. As the platform gained traction, Aisha was invited to collaborate with mental health organizations and participate in community outreach programs. She felt a sense of fulfillment as she worked alongside others who shared her passion for advocacy. One day, Aisha received an email from a prominent mental health organization. They had heard about her platform and wanted to partner with her on a campaign aimed at raising awareness about mental health in schools. Aisha was thrilled at the opportunity to collaborate with an established organization that shared her vision. "Dear Aisha," the email began, "we are impressed by the work you've done in creating a supportive community for mental health awareness. We believe that together, we can make a significant impact in schools across the region. We would love to discuss a potential partnership for our upcoming campaign." Aisha felt a surge of excitement as she read the email. This was a chance to expand her reach and influence, to bring mental health discussions into the very spaces where young people spent their time. She quickly replied, expressing her enthusiasm and suggesting a meeting to brainstorm ideas. When the day of the meeting arrived, Aisha felt a mix of nerves and anticipation. She joined the video call with representatives from the organization, eager to share her vision. They discussed various strategies, including workshops, informational sessions, and the creation of educational materials that could be distributed in schools. "We want to empower students to talk about mental health openly," one of the representatives said. "By providing them with the tools and resources they need, we can help create a culture of understanding and support." Aisha nodded, feeling a sense of alignment with their mission. "I believe it's essential to involve students in the conversation. We can create peer-led initiatives where students can share their experiences and support one another." As they brainstormed ideas, Aisha felt a renewed sense of purpose. This partnership could amplify her advocacy work and reach countless young people who needed support. They decided to launch a series of workshops in local high schools, focusing on mental health education, coping strategies, and the importance of seeking help. The first workshop was scheduled for the following month at a nearby high school. Aisha and the representatives from the mental health organization prepared diligently, creating engaging presentations and interactive activities. They wanted to ensure that the students felt comfortable discussing mental health and understood that it was okay to seek help. On the day of the workshop, Aisha arrived early to set up the room. As students began to file in, she greeted them with a warm smile, hoping to create an inviting atmosphere. The room buzzed with energy, and Aisha could sense the curiosity among the students. "Welcome, everyone." Aisha began, standing at the front of the room. "Today, we're going to talk about mental health, what it is, why it matters, and how we can support ourselves and each other." As she spoke, Aisha shared her own experiences and the stories of individuals she had interviewed. She emphasized the importance of breaking the stigma surrounding mental health and encouraged students to share their thoughts and feelings. Throughout the workshop, Aisha facilitated discussions, allowing students to express their concerns and ask questions. She noticed that many of them were eager to engage, sharing their own experiences and offering support to one another. One student, a young man named Ethan, raised his hand. "I've struggled with anxiety for a long time, and I never really talked about it. Hearing everyone's stories makes me feel like I'm not alone." Aisha smiled, grateful for his honesty. "Thank you for sharing that, Ethan. It's so important to know that you're not alone in this. We all have our struggles, and talking about them is the first step toward healing." As the workshop continued, Aisha introduced coping strategies and resources for mental health support. She provided information about local counseling services, hotlines, and online resources, ensuring that students knew where to turn for help. By the end of the workshop, Aisha felt a sense of accomplishment. The students had engaged in meaningful conversations, and many expressed gratitude for the opportunity to discuss mental health openly. Aisha knew that this was just the beginning of a larger movement to promote mental health awareness in schools. As the workshops continued over the following months, Aisha witnessed the ripple effect of their efforts. Students began to form support groups, where they could share their experiences and offer encouragement to one another. The conversations about mental health that had once been taboo were now becoming a regular part of their school culture. Aisha received messages from teachers and administrators who reported positive changes in their students. "We've noticed a significant shift in how students are talking about mental health," one teacher wrote. "They're more open and supportive of one another, and it's making a real difference in our school community." Encouraged by this feedback, Aisha and the mental health organization decided to expand their initiative. They began collaborating with additional schools, creating a comprehensive mental health awareness program that included workshops, informational materials, and ongoing support. One day, Aisha received an invitation to speak at a regional education conference focused on mental health in schools. The organizers had heard about her workshops and the positive impact they were having, and they wanted her to share her experiences with a wider audience of educators and administrators. Aisha felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as she prepared for the conference. This was an opportunity to advocate for mental health awareness on a larger scale and to inspire other educators to implement similar programs in their schools. She spent hours crafting her presentation, ensuring that she highlighted the importance of creating supportive environments for students. On the day of the conference, Aisha arrived early to set up her materials. As she walked through the venue, she felt a sense of anticipation. Educators from various schools were gathered, eager to learn about innovative approaches to mental health education. When it was time for her presentation, Aisha took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. The audience was attentive, and she could see the interest in their eyes. "Thank you all for being here today," she began. "I'm excited to share the work we've been doing to promote mental health awareness in schools and the incredible impact it's had on students." As she spoke, Aisha shared stories from the workshops, highlighting the courage of students who had opened up about their struggles. She emphasized the importance of creating safe spaces for conversations about mental health and the need for educators to be equipped with the tools to support their students. "Every student deserves to feel seen and heard," Aisha said passionately. "By fostering a culture of understanding and support, we can help break the stigma surrounding mental health and empower our students to seek help when they need it." After her presentation, Aisha was approached by several educators who expressed their admiration for her work. "Your story is inspiring," one teacher said. "I'd love to implement something similar in my school. How can I get started?" Aisha felt a sense of fulfillment as she shared resources and ideas with her fellow educators. She knew that the more schools that embraced mental health awareness, the greater the impact they could have on students' lives. In the months that followed, Aisha continued to expand her network of educators and mental health advocates. She organized a series of follow-up workshops for teachers, providing them with training on how to recognize signs of mental health struggles in students and how to create supportive classroom environments. During one of these workshops, Aisha met a school counselor named Mr. Thompson, who was passionate about mental health advocacy. He shared his experiences working with students and the challenges he faced in getting support for mental health initiatives within his school. "I believe we can do more to support our students," Mr. Thompson said. "But it often feels like there's a lack of resources and understanding from the administration." Aisha nodded, understanding the frustration. "That's why it's so important for us to come together as advocates. If we can build a strong network of educators and mental health professionals, we can push for the changes our students need." Inspired by their conversation, Aisha and Mr. Thompson decided to collaborate on a project aimed at creating a comprehensive mental health resource guide for schools. They reached out to mental health organizations, educators, and students to gather information and insights. As they worked on the guide, Aisha felt a sense of purpose. This resource would not only provide valuable information but also serve as a tool for educators to advocate for mental health initiatives within their schools. They included sections on recognizing mental health issues, strategies for creating supportive environments, and resources for students and families. After months of hard work, Aisha and Mr. Thompson were ready to launch the Mental Health Resource Guide. They organized a community event at the local library, inviting educators, parents, and students to attend. Aisha felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as the day approached. On the day of the launch, the library was filled with attendees eager to learn about the resource guide. Aisha and Mr. Thompson set up a table with copies of the guide, along with informational materials about mental health resources in the community. As the event began, Aisha welcomed everyone and shared the motivation behind the guide. "We created this resource to empower educators and support students in their mental health journeys. It's essential that we work together to create a culture of understanding and compassion in our schools." After her introduction, Aisha invited Mr. Thompson to speak. He shared his experiences working with students and the importance of addressing mental health in educational settings. The audience listened intently, and Aisha could see the impact their words were having. As the event continued, attendees had the opportunity to ask questions and engage in discussions. Aisha felt a sense of fulfillment as she witnessed the community coming together to support mental health awareness. At the end of the event, Aisha and Mr. Thompson were approached by several attendees who expressed their gratitude for the resource guide. One teacher, Ms. Rivera, said, "This is exactly what we need in our school. I've seen so many students struggle, and having a guide like this will help us support them better." Aisha felt a swell of pride as she listened to the feedback. "Thank you, Ms. Rivera. It's our hope that this guide will empower educators to take action and create a more supportive environment for students." As the evening progressed, Aisha and Mr. Thompson engaged in meaningful conversations with parents and community members. They discussed the importance of mental health education and the need for ongoing support for students and families. Aisha felt energized by the enthusiasm in the room, knowing that they were making a difference. After the event, Aisha received an email from a local news outlet. They had heard about the launch of the resource guide and wanted to feature Aisha and Mr. Thompson in a segment about mental health initiatives in schools. Aisha was thrilled at the opportunity to share their work with a broader audience. When the day of the interview arrived, Aisha felt a mix of excitement and nerves. She and Mr. Thompson arrived at the studio, where they were greeted by the host and production team. Aisha took a deep breath, reminding herself of the importance of their message. During the interview, the host asked Aisha about her journey and the motivation behind the resource guide. Aisha spoke passionately about her experiences and the stories of students who had inspired her to advocate for mental health awareness. "We created this guide to empower educators and provide them with the tools they need to support their students," Aisha explained. "Mental health is just as important as physical health, and we need to create an environment where students feel safe to talk about their struggles. Mr. Thompson added, it's crucial for schools to recognize the signs of mental health issues and to have resources in place to support students. We want to foster a culture of understanding and compassion. As the interview concluded, Aisha felt a sense of accomplishment. They had successfully shared their message with a wider audience, and she hoped it would inspire other schools to take action. In the weeks that followed, Aisha and Mr. Thompson received numerous inquiries from schools interested in implementing similar mental health initiatives. They began organizing training sessions for educators, providing them with the knowledge and resources to create supportive environments for their students. Aisha felt a renewed sense of purpose as she traveled to different schools, sharing her experiences and facilitating workshops. She was inspired by the dedication of educators who were eager to make a difference in the lives of their students. During one workshop, Aisha met a group of students who were passionate about mental health advocacy. They expressed their desire to start a peer support group at their school, and Aisha was thrilled to see young people taking the initiative. I'd love to help you get started, Aisha said, her eyes lighting up. Peer support groups can be incredibly powerful. You can create a safe space for students to share their experiences and support one another. With Aisha's guidance, the students began organizing their peer support group, planning meetings and activities that would promote mental health awareness. Aisha felt a sense of pride as she watched them take ownership of their advocacy efforts. As Aisha's work continued to gain recognition, she received an invitation to speak at a national conference on mental health in education. The conference would bring together educators, mental health professionals, and advocates from across the country to discuss best practices and innovative approaches to mental health awareness. Aisha was both excited and honored to be part of such an important event. She spent weeks preparing her presentation, wanting to share the success of her initiatives and the impact they had made in local schools. When the day of the conference arrived, Aisha felt a mix of nerves and anticipation. As she stepped onto the stage in front of a large audience, she took a deep breath and reminded herself of the importance of her message. Thank you all for being here today, Aisha began, her voice steady. I'm excited to share the work we've been doing to promote mental health awareness in schools and the incredible impact it's had on students. As she spoke, Aisha shared stories from her workshops, highlighting the courage of students who had opened up about their struggles. She emphasized the importance of creating safe spaces for conversations about mental health and the need for educators to be equipped with the tools to support their students. Every student deserves to feel seen and heard, Aisha said passionately. By fostering a culture of understanding and support, we can help break the stigma surrounding mental health and empower our students to seek help when they need it. As she concluded her presentation, Aisha felt a wave of emotion wash over her. The audience erupted into applause, and she could see the impact her words had made. Educators approached her afterward, eager to discuss how they could implement similar initiatives in their own schools. One teacher, Ms. Johnson, said, "Your work is inspiring, Aisha. I want to bring this message back to my school and start a mental health awareness program. How can I get started?" Aisha smiled, feeling a sense of fulfillment. "I'd be happy to help you. Let's connect after the conference, and I can share resources and ideas that have worked for us." As the conference wrapped up, Aisha reflected on her journey. From that fateful flight to becoming a passionate advocate for mental health awareness, she had transformed her pain into purpose. She had created a platform for others to share their stories, and she had inspired countless individuals to seek help and support. In the months that followed the conference, Aisha continued to expand her advocacy work. She collaborated with mental health organizations, schools, and community groups to create a national campaign focused on mental health education. The campaign aimed to reach students, parents, and educators, providing them with the tools and resources they needed to support mental health in their communities. Aisha also began writing a book, chronicling her journey and the stories of those she had met along the way. She wanted to create a resource that would inspire others to embrace their voices and advocate for change. The book would include personal narratives, practical advice, and insights from mental health professionals. As she wrote, Aisha felt a sense of purpose. She knew that her story was just one of many, and she wanted to amplify the voices of others who had faced similar struggles. She envisioned a world where mental health was openly discussed, where individuals felt empowered to seek help, and where communities came together to support one another. Years later, Aisha stood in front of a crowd at a mental health awareness event, reflecting on how far she had come. The initiative she had started in her community had grown into a national movement, with schools across the country implementing mental health programs and resources. As she looked out at the audience, she saw students, educators, and families who had come together to support mental health awareness. Aisha felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey she had taken and the lives she had touched. "Thank you all for being here today," Aisha began, her voice filled with emotion. "Together, we have created a culture of understanding and support. We have broken the stigma surrounding mental health, and we have empowered countless individuals to seek help and share their stories." As she spoke, Aisha felt a sense of hope for the future. She knew that the work was far from over, but she was inspired by the progress that had been made. Each story shared, each conversation sparked, and each life touched was a testament to the power of advocacy and the importance of mental health awareness. Aisha's journey continued as she traveled the country, speaking at schools, conferences, and community events. She remained dedicated to her mission of advocating for mental health awareness and supporting those who struggled with their mental health. Her book was published to critical acclaim, inspiring readers to embrace their voices and advocate for change. Aisha received messages from individuals who had found hope and healing through her words, and she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. As she looked back on her journey, Aisha knew that her experiences had shaped her into the person she was today. She had turned her pain into purpose, and she had created a legacy of compassion, understanding, and advocacy. In the end, Aisha's story was not just about her own struggles, it was about the power of community, the importance of mental health, and the impact that one voice can have in creating change. She had become a beacon of hope for others, and her journey would continue to inspire generations to come. Thank you for following Aisha's journey. If you have any other requests or need further assistance, feel free to ask.